You know what I miss in the world? People asking you what your favorite dinosaur is. So here we are with a top 10 list for my top 10 favorite dinosaurs. Now, before we go any further, there's a few notes here. One, I'm not going to include pterosaurs or marine reptiles. Those aren't dinosaurs. They're their own species. So those aren't dinosaurs. And furthermore, we're just going to focus on most dinosaur species. So prehistoric mammals out, animals like Gorgonopsid, or most animals from the Triassic period. Even Dimetrodon isn't a dinosaur. Yeah, it's actually a prehistoric mammal. For those who don't know, it's a precursor to prehistoric mammals. Yeah, we're more closely related to Dimetrodon than they are to T-Rex. So, yeah. And as always with these top 10 lists, there's a lot of dinosaurs, and if a dinosaur you think should be higher or lower on the list, that's totally fine. I'm always excited to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. So, having said all that, let's get started with this list, starting off with number 10. Number 10 is Eutyrannus. Eutyrannus is a member of the Tyrannosaurid family. It's actually one of the earlier species. Eutyrannus is fascinating in that it's one of the tyrannid large carnivores that actually had feathers. It actually had a form of feathers because where it lived in history was a very cold area. It was a very cold, near Arctic area, and those feathers helped regulate that heat. Now, it's important to note that Eutyrannus was very important for paleontology, mostly because at the time we did know that dinosaurs did have feathers, but we didn't know how many large dinosaurs, especially theropods like Eutyrannus, had feathers. We just assumed it was mostly the raptors and other smaller bipedal dinosaurs. Eutyrannus proved that there was a possibility for dinosaurs to have large carnivores to have feathers. So it opened the door, and then another animal came along that I was going to put on this list, and I'll have an honorable mention here, Nanuqsaurus, which is another tyrannid who had feathers. So it also gave the reason of, maybe T-Rex also had feathers. That's still up in the air. I know, people, paleontology now says that, T-Rex probably did have feathers, but not a lot. It probably had, precursor feathers or something like that. Anyway, so there you go, Eutyrannus. Number 9, Ankylosaurus. It's really hard being a herbivore. It's really hard being a herbivore in the Mesozoic era. Dinosaurs were very much either eat or be eaten. And and if you're a herbivore, you wake up with the mindset of I wish a motherfucker would every day. And no dinosaur embodies that better than Ankylosaurus. Ankylosaurus is just a walking tank. It was just a walking tank that just walked around, ate plants, and if it's something like a T-Rex came along, it would just break its leg. Just swing that club and just go, fuck out of here. I'm Ankylosaurus. It's literally the size of a tank with a club that could easily shatter a carnivore's leg or anything else. It is suspected that Ankylosaurus probably didn't have the best eyesight, much like modern day rhinos. So it was probably swinging that club tail at everything. It was probably just it was probably like Joaquin Phoenix's character in Signs, swing away. That's all it did. That's all it did was swing away at everything. So you gotta respect that. And yes, I do have the list, and I'm looking down at it. So number 8. So let's move on to number 8. Number 8 is Therizinosaurus. Therizinosaurus is a fascinating creature. It's a bipedal, feathered. It's a bipedal feathered herbivore with probably the biggest claws known to man. known to paleontology. Another animal that was probably another fuck around and find out kind of herbivore. These claws were kind of like a sloth claw, where they could just reach out, bring branches down to them, and also probably scrape at the ground and dig and like kick up dust and kick up food that it would want to eat, or maybe even claw at bark that it'd probably want to drink sap. Again, that's all speculation. But let's be real. The other reason why Therizinosaurus is well known for those claws is for fucking shit up. And I'm not like, oh, you just like Therizinosaurus because he showed up in Jurassic World Dominion. No, it's just a cool dinosaur, and I was like, oh, the Therizinosaurus got into Dominion. Awesome. It's actually like one of the reasons why I love Therizinosaurus is because it's almost like one of my favorite prehistoric mammals, Megatherium, aka the giant ground sloth. It was just like a bird version of the ground sloth. And I know what people are saying. Oh, dinos, and I'm going to talk about this right now. People always bitch and moan about dinosaurs with feathers, and oh, they're not scary, they're not intimidating. Bitch, have you heard of a cassowary? Those things are terrifying. So imagine that with claws and teeth and the attitude of a methed out Florida man. That's horrifying. So, and imagine that as a 30-foot tall animal that had claws as long as you. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. At number 8, Therizinosaurus. Next up at number 7, Allosaurus. Allosaurus has been one of my favorite dinosaurs ever. I know, yes, we have found other carnivores of the Jurassic era, such as, Torvosaurus or Saruthaganax, which could be it may not be even a actual dinosaur. It may just be a older Allosaurus. We're still figuring that out. That's what I love about paleontology. Nothing sticks, and it's always changing. It's awesome. I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, like, that's awesome. That's generally awesome. So Allosaurus has kind of remained kind of a constant. They were known as the lions of the Jurassic, but when you see other dinosaurs they've had to compete with, like I said, with Saruthaganax and Torvosaurus, and even to an extent, probably Ceratosaurus for scraps, it's kind of more believed now that Allosaurus was probably more like the hyenas. When they were once called the lions of the Jurassic, they were probably called the hyenas of the Jurassic, where they were more like large scavengers. To which it would make sense, but also remember, hyenas actually have a higher success rate in hunting than even lions. So, and it has been believed that Allosaurus was a pack hunter. So, when you combined all of that with an animal that was probably fast for its size, and an animal that probably did hunt actual prey and be opportunistic, you've got a pretty good-sized dinosaur that is really good at its job. And also, yes, a lot of my love for it did come from the Big Al special from Walking with Dinosaurs. Thank you for asking. Anyway, so let's move on now to number 6. And staying in the Jurassic era is a dinosaur that actually encountered Allosaurus, Stegosaurus. First off, what I love most about the Stegosaurus is that its tail is actually named after a cartoon. Okay, so for those who don't know, there is a comic called The Far Side. And in The Far Side, there was a comic they wrote of these cavemen who were studying the tail of this screen and the tail of a Stegosaurus. And in it, the caveman goes, and here we have the Thangamizer, named after the late Thang Simmons. And paleontologists, being the nerds that they are, just called it the Thangamizer actual thing. So that's why the tail, the spiked tail of the Stegosaurus is called the Thangamizer. It's named after a Far Side comic. How perfect is that? Oh, paleontologists are such nerds. But Stegosaurus is always like one of those quintessential dinosaurs you think of, and are always like one of the biggest herbivores. They were one of the more I wouldn't say more... What's the word? I wouldn't say like they're the most common, but they were definitely an animal. When you think Jurassic era, you think you definitely think like Stegosaurus. And Stegosaurus was an animal that was large, herd-moving, and also had the mentality of, I fucking dare you, to every carnivore it encountered, because I guarantee you it probably introduced most of its enemies to the business end of its Thangomizer. So, yeah, there you go, Stegosaurus. Next up, we're going to the top 5 with Deinonychus, or Deinonychus. Pick your poison. Deinonychus is... I'm going to say it right now, Velociraptors are overrated. Fight me. Deinonychus is a fascinating predator because it was large, not too big, it was large, it was fast, and also was a dinosaur that had a lot of scientific... very much a lot of scientific importance. It was one of the first dinosaurs where when we found the skeletons for Deinonychus, it changed not only, first off, it changed how we view dinosaur movement. For the longest time before we found Deinonychus, we thought that dinosaurs were slow, big, dumb animals. And then came Deinonychus' skeleton. They were fat and showed that these animals could be fast, they could be nimble, and could possibly be pack hunters. Although that is kind of up in debate now because we are finding more separate Deinonychus skeletons, apparently. And, again, Deinonychus was also one of the first dromaeosaurids who showed that dinosaurs had feathers and were related to modern-day birds. So, yeah. Yep. So there you go, Deinonychus. Next up, at number 4, we have Carcaradontosaurus. Carcaradontosaurus was one of the largest predators on the planet. It shared territory with Spinosaurus and was probably the apex predator of early Cretaceous North Africa. This was an animal that was more than likely capable of taking down large prey items and such as sauropods and hadrosaurs with ease. They were massive, and they were undisputed predators. So they were just these undisputed predators. And there are a lot of other large predators I do like on here. I do like Giganotosaurus, T-Rex. But the Carcaradontosaurus is fascinating in that it's just this animal that has this long, slender build and just had a nightmarish kind of, just was probably the nightmare of its territory. It was, wherever this thing went, it probably made other animals just run. So, there you go. Next up at number 3, Baryonyx. Now, you may be thinking, Baryonyx, really? There's so many others, like Suchomimus, or the more popular cousin Spinosaurus, which I do like. I do like Spinosaurus, even when he's... do we know if he's aquatic or not, or something else? So, but Baryonyx I've always liked growing up, because Baryonyx looked like just a mobile crocodile with huge claws that could probably tear through someone's gut in just a few seconds. Baryonyx may not be the biggest of its family, but it's definitely a predator that could have more than likely been mobile on land as much as it would have been on sea. We do have a lot of evidence now to suggest that more than likely it didn't just eat fish, it probably went after other animals as well, but it was probably more of a river species though. Baryonyx is just a fun predator. It's just a fun-looking animal. Also, its name means heavy claw. How metal can you get? And trust me, dinosaurs these days are getting more and more metal names. Like, there's some called the Great Shadow of Death. There's others who are known as the Gore King Lizard. Yeah, dinosaur names are just getting more and more metal as we go on with life. So, moving on to number 2, Carnotaurus. I will admit that while Carnotaurus may not look like one of the most intimidating predators, it's definitely one that just looks the most metal. And yes, my general love for the animal came from Disney's Dinosaur. Fucking shocker. And yes, I know Carnotaurus in there is a lot different from the Carnotaurus in real life, but still, Carnotaurus is a lot of fun, and I still get a kick out of a prehistoric planet mating dance. Carnotaurus was not the biggest, but definitely an apex predator of its time. Probably an animal that, if it was still around, would probably also prey on humans. It is believed that, like a lot of theropods, had dinosaurs and humans existed together, most large theropods like T-Rex probably wouldn't have eaten humans, but some of the medium to smaller size, like the raptors and Carnotaurus, probably prey on humans. We're probably big enough to give them calories. So here we are at number 1, and you're probably thinking, well, who's your number 1? Is it T-Rex? It's got to be the T-Rex, right? Everybody loves the T-Rex. And yes, I love the T-Rex, but it's not the T-Rex. It's Triceratops. Yep. Triceratops has been my favorite dinosaur since ever. It's just a big tank that just walks around with 3 horns and just eats and just wants to live its life as a fat fuck. And don't we all want that? Don't we all just want to be walking around and just eating food and being fat fucks with our lives, and then some motherfucker comes up to try to kill us, and we just shank him? Yeah. If you're a dinosaur that could take on the apex predator of the Cretaceous era, mad props. Yeah. So, there you go, guys. Those are my top 10 favorite dinosaurs. So you guys tell me in the comments below. What are your top 10 favorite dinosaurs? There's a lot, so I imagine there's going to be a lot of mix and match with this list. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.